I have the honor and privilege right now to talk to really a legendary name in the Tulane baseball world and the baseball world in general. Rick Jones, coach of Tulane for a long, long time. Coach, you just recently got the title of former Tulane coach, and my first question to you is, what is life after being a baseball coach like? Have you found a way to relax?
Yeah, a little bit. It's been a little different. Obviously, we moved back to North Carolina here in a beach community where we went to school. My wife and I both graduated from UNC Wilmington, and that's where we are right here in a beach community. And we have a lot of family between her family and mine. We have a lot of family here. That's why we came back here. And so, her mom, my mom, all those things. So it's been a totally different life, but one that has been a little bit relaxing. But at the same time, I do miss practice. I miss being around the kids, and I miss the practice part of it. But I've tried to spend as much time as I can, paying attention and watching games and talking to my former assistants who are now head coaches. And I was out at UNCW a lot the last couple of years watching them play, and good friends with their head coach, and trying to get a little bit of a fix there. But it's not quite the same as being at Tulane in New Orleans, and which was such a great time in our lives over those 21 years.
And Coach Jones, I'm glad you brought that up because you said you've went back home. By the way, I lived in North Carolina. Wilmington is gorgeous, so please enjoy the beaches. I haven't been to the beach in a long time, but my question is about New Orleans and Tulane because you spent so much of your time there, and it probably became another home for you, and you have extended family there whenever in terms of the players you coached and the people in that program that you were close to. What does it mean to you that you're going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame specifically?
Well, it's a great honor, and one that I'm seriously I'm indebted. I mean, I had no idea when I got the phone call. I know that there's only four other college baseball coaches, and you look at the list of the past inductees, and it's such a great honor to be a part of this. And when you look, obviously the great Rag Sherman, who I got a chance to spend some time with when I first got to Tulane before he passed away, and Coach Maestri was my last game as a coach was against him, and Coach Burtman, his last game as a coach was against me, and so it's a great honor, and New Orleans. I mean, we live here, and this is a great area, and the beach and all those things that go with it. But for me, with all my friends there and all the contacts and former players, and it still is going to be home to me forever.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured there. I'm glad you brought up your players because we're going to get to your resume in just a little while because, of course, it's very impressive, but I want to tell the listeners, I know coaches don't like to hear about themselves a lot. It's usually about the players, so that's what I want to start with. In your time, you coached 55 draft picks out of Tulane, 22 All-Americans, and the last part of this is every player who played 4 years for you completed their degree. Which part of that equation makes you the most proud?
Well, obviously the last one. You want guys to be able to do that, and we have so many of my former players, and it wasn't just me. I mean, it would be anybody who was a head coach at Tulane who, because what kind of kids you're going to be coaching there. I mean, you're going to be coaching guys that are really academically oriented, and so many of those guys have gone on to have such great careers outside of baseball, and a lot of them played. And even played in the major leagues, but now they, whether they're running their own business or they're in law school or an attorney or in med school or a doctor. I mean, those are the kind of things that and then they stay in touch, and those are the kind of things that make you know that you were really blessed to have coached in a place like that. And I guess, when people ask me questions about certain teams and what have you, and I've got so many fond memories about so many of those teams, but one of the things that always sticks out in my mind is the night before the College World Series began in 2005, and we were the number one seed in the country, but we got in the pregame ceremonies we got the highest GPA award, and so to be ranked number one in the country and have the highest GPA award, that was really special to be a part of that, and I think that that's again, so many things stick out. Post Katrina, the teams that my first team there, the things that helped build our program. But that was one of the things that stuck out in my mind is that we had not only a team ranked number one in the country, but we also had a team that had the highest GPA, and that tells you about special kids.
Yeah, and I've found out in just my short time doing this sports gig that most of the successful managers have a philosophy that goes along with their team that usually takes place off the field. In terms of what you tried to preach to your players to improve them on and off the field, what was kind of your philosophy, and what pillars did you build your program on?
Well, I mean, again, the greatest thing that could ever be said about any player is that they were a great teammate. And if you're a great teammate, that means you're not just, you're a teammate during the game. I didn't want players that liked to win. I wanted players that hated to lose. That didn't mean you're a jerk if you do lose. It means that you fight hard not to lose during the entire year, and whether it be in the weight room or in your workouts or going to class and making sure you get you get your grades and helping out your teammates, doing all the right things, making the right choices after hours, all those things that go with that. And I didn't like guys that like to play because everybody likes to play. I wanted guys that loved to practice, guys that had a passion for the game. And I was very fortunate to have so many guys at Tulane who were great teammates and loved to practice, had a passion for the game, and just hated to lose. And that was sort of what we looked for in recruiting, and we were fortunate to have a lot of those guys.
And in your 21 years at Tulane, and again, we're speaking with former head coach Rick Jones of the Tulane Green Wave, going to be inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. In your 21 years, you won over I think 800 games. In your career, though, you had over 1,000 wins. What makes you the most proud about your on-field achievements? I mean, 1,000 wins, that's a lot of longevity. Baseball is a game of a lot of up and downs. That means there must have been some consistency in there. What makes you the most proud about your 1,000 wins?
Well, that's a great question. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, I just think the fact that I was able to do it for 39 years, and I was able to do it at a lot of different levels. But, I spent 18 years trying to get. I wanted to be a Division I coach from the time I graduated from college, and I spent 18 years to get to that level. And I started out as a junior high coach for 3 years, and I was a high school coach for 3 years, a junior college coach for 3 years, and I was an Elon when it was an NAI school, obviously Division I now, for 5, and then I spent 4 years at Georgia Tech as the assistant head coach, and 3 tours of duty on the USA team. Had a chance to be the head coach in 2009. I did everything I could in those 18 years to try to get my dream job. And, Kevin White, fortunately, the AD at the time at Tulane, who's now the AD at Duke, one of the great ADs in the country, gave me the opportunity to get my dream job. But I felt like I'd worked for it and earned it. And the job that I got was the one that really came out to be my dream job.
And I'm glad you brought up your experience with Team USA. Again, you got to be the skipper and wear the country's colors. What was that experience like to you personally? And if you have a memory that you still remember and hold on to, would you mind sharing it with us?
Well, yeah, no. Obviously, when you wear USA on the front of your jersey and you're in foreign countries, it really means you start to understand how special it is to represent your country. And I've had former players of mine and assistants of mine who also were part of Team USA. But I mean, so many stand out. I mean, playing Cuba on national television in 1990 on NBC in Havana. I mean, obviously coaching in the Far East and the Tokyo Dome and all those things. But I guess the thing that really stands out to me is that I had a chance to coach so many great players over the years. I'm in 1989. I'm in the bullpen and my bullpen catcher that night was Mike Matheny. The manager of the Cardinals now. I mean, you coach so many guys that go on to have great careers both in and out of baseball, but so many future major leaguers. I mean, whether it be Garrett Cole or I can go down the list. There's so many guys who are still playing in the big leagues that I had on the 2009 team. But I do remember this in the 4th of July in 2009. We played in Durham Athletic Park where the Durham Bulls play, and we had a packed house for the 4th of July. and we won the game. And afterwards, I did say to the team, I said, I don't know what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You may be still playing, or you may be in the backyard barbecuing. But remember, on this 4th of July, you were in front of a packed house with Team USA on the front of your jersey, representing your country on the 4th of July. And that's one of those things that stood out to me. And when my first meeting with the Team USA, I didn't stand in front of them. I sat in the middle of them, and I said, guys, I'm sitting in the middle of you guys and talking because I'm just like you. It's my only chance to represent the country as the head coach of Team USA. Your chance to play, and let's remember we keep that in mind every day we go out there. We represent our country.
And we're speaking with Coach Rick Jones of Tulane. He's going to be inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame this weekend. What a monumentous event. But I want to look back now on what was probably an incredibly special year in your life, 2005. You were named the National Coach of the Year by Baseball America. But, I mean, probably more importantly to you, your team went to the College World Series. Second appearance in the program's history. And that year must have just felt like such a blur at the time. But now that you've had time to look back on it, what does that year kind of mean to you?
Well, it was a great year. I mean, we were ranked number one in preseason, and in the last 6 weeks of the season, we were number one in every poll. And obviously we went to the World Series as the number one seed. Now, that may be a curse. I don't know what's going to happen with Florida, but the number one seed has not won the national championship since '99, and we didn't win it. And that was really disappointing because we had such a great club, and they're so invested, as so many of our teams have been. 6 of those guys off that club played in the big leagues, and so we had such a talented group, but they were really committed. And it was a real magical year for us in a lot of ways because you're getting everybody's A game every game, and those guys were always prepared for it. So we didn't have many letdowns. We had 56 wins, and it was a fun time. But having said that, the next year, 2006, after Katrina, and we took our team to Lubbock, Texas, and it didn't have a ballpark and didn't really know. We didn't have a manual. There's no manual to follow after Katrina, and so we just took it day by day. We came back from Lubbock and played at Zephyr Field that year, and that team wound up in a regional final at Ole Miss, which is in the final 32 in the country. I was equally proud of that club also. So, looking back on that now, there's some special moments there.
Yeah, and Coach, taking Tulane to such great heights, I actually asked Gus Kattengell, who works in your market, he's done some stuff with the Green Wave program, and I asked him if he had one question for you, what would it be? And he came up with a doozy for you. He said you've had a front row seat at the growth of college baseball. You're seeing Coastal Carolina and the Gauchos not only make it to Omaha, but make an impact. And for you, what's been the biggest difference in seeing smaller schools get a chance? And what's kind of the greatest challenges for the non-state schools?
Again, the changes in the rules, they put the rules in a few years ago that you had to give 25% scholarship to a young man if you gave him a scholarship at all. And so that changed things because, a lot of schools would get a young man and sign him to a book scholarship if he had the resources. He didn't have to have the scholarship money. Because, again, you have to remember, we are probably the most under-scholarshiped sport in college athletics. We only have 11.7 scholarships in the total program. And so you have to depend on institutional aid or whatever if you're going to increase that. And, again, the other thing is what makes our sport unique is that, half of our scholarship money goes into pitchers, and those guys only play once a week. And so the other time they're sitting over there next to me. And so I think that when they put the 25% rule in, they took away the transfer rule where you had to sit out a year and, changed the junior college rule where you had to have 48 transferable hours when you come in the fall. You didn't have to get it by the springtime. Those things sort of changed things for some of the for the major schools, and it gives an opportunity for some of the other schools to have good programs. And I'll tell you the other thing, there's a lot of young coaches out there that are getting after it, doing great jobs, and building programs. They've got energy. They understand how to do it, and there's a lot of good players out there with all the showcase tournaments and everything going on. There's a lot of good players out there, and you can only have so many guys on scholarship. And so, again, instead of one or two schools having 50, 60 guys on a roster, you only have 35 now. Only have 35 on your roster, and so it gets spread around. And I think that's really benefited some of the schools that may not be the P5 type schools that you talk about.
Coach, I got one more for you on the game, and then I have one last question, and then I'll let you off the hook. And again, thank you for spending some time with us here on ESPN 1420. Your squad's averaged 40 wins a season during your 20 years at Tulane. How hard is it just to keep things consistent in the game of baseball? Because whether that's the MLB draft coming in and just vulturing away your players, or recruits going one way or another, an entire wave, a senior class that had impact, leaving and going on to another phase of their life. How did you find a way to keep consistency in your programming and your coaching career?
Well, I think you have to have a real, whatever your philosophy is, you have to stay consistent with that. And I think the coaches that do well, they're disciplined in that, and they recruit well. And we were able to recruit well, and we had a philosophy that we didn't deviate from. And I was very fortunate that I had some really good assistants, whether it be Jim Slosnagle, Rob Cooper, Mark Kingston. I can go down the list of all the guys, Jay Gotro, Chad Suter. Brandon Melange. I can give you so many of those guys who coach for me, who were just, so married to it. And I told every one of my guys who ever wanted to get into coaching, or somebody who ever talked to me, if you can fathom doing something else, then you don't need to be in college baseball, because it's not a day job or a night job. It's both. It's a lifestyle. And that's all I ever cared about doing. I don't have any hobbies, and which is a problem now, probably. I'm sitting here when I'm not a golfer or a fisherman, but I think I was fortunate. I had some great assistants who felt the same way, and we were fortunate to sign some really, really solid kids who just were program oriented, but also talented players. I don't really know if there's a secret formula, but I do think that the coaches that do well recruit well, and then they have a disciplined program, and whatever their philosophy is, they don't deviate too much from that, and the kids buy in.
Last one for you. I'm glad you mentioned that it's a lifestyle being a coach. And from what I've seen, a lot of the guys that do have a lot of success and keep consistency, there's a very strong support structure off the field, whether that's family or faith. It comes in some type of form to keep you grounded. What were the forces that kept you grounded in your coaching career?
Well, I was very fortunate, and I said this when I was a high school coach. My first high school job, I gave out all the uniforms to the players, and the last uniform left was the number 10. And so it was too big of a jersey, but I put it on, and we won our first game. So I wore number 10 for the rest of my career. Well, that same summer, I was fortunate to marry my college sweetheart, and so I've always said, I started wearing 10 and I married at 10. I have a wife who taught special education for 37 years, but also she handled everything. I mean, all the recruiting meals and alumni dinners and all the camps and bookkeeping and everything, and it took a lot of the pressure off me, so I could be on the road and recruit and spend time with players and what have you. And she was really instrumental in all of our success. And so I think that if you ask me the one question, if it hadn't been for her, I don't think we had the success we would have had.
I figured that response was coming. You just earn major brownie points with the wife. Former Tulane head coach Rick Jones has been our guest. Coach, thank you for the time, and please enjoy the ceremony this Saturday.
I'm really looking forward to the weekend, and I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. Thanks, Coach.